Buenas tardes. Good morning, Profesor Mascarenhas. Can you hear me? ¿Pueden, por favor, conectar? Profesor Mascarenhas está en Estados Unidos, en el Congreso americano. Can you hear me, profesor?
Hola, buenas tardes a todos.
Buenas tardes, Miguel. It's a great pleasure to introduce Miguel Mascarenhas, a distinguished gastroenterologist from Porto, Portugal. Dr. Mascarenhas works in the Centro Hospitalar Universitario São João, one of the Portugal's leading academic hospital, and he leads the precision medicine unit in the gastroenterology department. Dr. Mascarenhas is the CEO and co-founder of XXXIII, a medical technology spin-off that develops artificial intelligence tools to improve diagnosis and monitoring of digestive disease. He has authored more than 200 scientific contributions and has been recognized internationally, including the American College of Gastroenterology Best Award in 2022 and 2024. Dr. Miguel Mascarenhas will deliver this lecture entitled Artificial Intelligence as a Transforming Factor in Motility Disorders, Automatic Detection of Motility Patterns in High-Resolution Anorectal Manometry. Welcome, Miguel.
Hi, everyone. It is my great pleasure to speak in SNM and to be able to deliver this presentation. So today I will speak about how artificial intelligence could, in our opinion, change the landscape on digestive motility, going from what is the current state of the art of AI in gastroenterology, and then more specific to digestive motility. So this is possible because we have an international group, and this concept of precision medicine was indeed born in the University of Porto, where we created DigestAid, which was a spin-off of the University of Porto, and it is a spin-off both from doctors and both from engineers, also some doctors with an hybrid background that can also work on data science. But most importantly, it's grew, and it's an international group with multiple centers throughout the world. We are in 15 countries, and for example, Spain, with Professor Cecilio, with Doctora Constanza, for example, they are our main collaborators in the field of digestive motility. So this is only possible because we are a family research team, and this led to multiple publications, and indeed AI, it's the same principles apply. However, in digestive motility, there are some particularities that I will explain. So as you can see, AI is about uniting persons so that we can mitigate demographic bias. You can see a procedure done this week in the United States, in New York, and at the same time a procedure done, and in this case was endoscopic ultrasound, in the other case was cholangioscopy in Brazil. So as you can see, AI is in digestive motility in 25 gained a lot of more traction, and was selected as best of EDW in oral communication. This work then in Spain, in La Princesa, in Puerta de Hierro, in also in Clínico San Carlos, and obviously also in my center in Portugal, in São João, and Mano PH, and also in my center in the United States, in South Alabama. So we can see that now we currently have models that work for both high-resolution manometry, not only in the esophageal part, but on the anorectal part, and this will be the example that we'll do today because it will be impossible to work. And we even went further, and I will present, and I'm honored to receive an award for our work on end-of-flip that we will present first time today in American College as a continuation, therefore bridging the three techniques. esophageal manometry, anorectal manometry, and also flip manometry. So this is basically about our Gen AI model. This is not ChatGPT. This is a Gen AI model that we use. And when we ask about the future of gastroenterology, it still puts always the same images of a capsule endoscopy. So this goes into the concept that AI also thinks that the future is minimally invasive. You didn't put here a manometry, which is a non-invasive solution, but probably endoflip would also appear if I ask a broader question on digestive motility. And then AI thinks that in 2050 we'll have like this surgery room. That's the thing. That's what AI thinks about it. And then a transplant, intestinal transplant, and also in 3000 they don't know what is gonna be, and then they present here an Iron Man doing some kind of surgery. So maybe AI thinks that we will not exist by that time. So basically, everything started with gastrointestinal endoscopy. So we are most of neurogastroenterologists, most of the persons who are dedicated in digestive motility. They can be gastroenterologists or surgeons or physiologists, but they perform gastrointestinal endoscopy, most of us. And indeed, most of the work that precede manometry lay on the same foundations that we had from gastrointestinal endoscopy, which is quite an important technique, particularly also for digestive motility. And I show the images on purpose because we currently we are on iPhone moment, which was the release of ChatGPT, where everyone is more aware about AI. But that's a completely different kind of AI. It's a generative AI, and the AI that we are deploying here is deep learning AI, which is we cannot say which modality is more advanced, but generative AI, basically they are large language models that go through the internet, and they are able to not only draft images but draft texts. And this has obviously some great applications like writing mails and creating images, but however they are not suited for training of medical models. There are publications also from our group proving that, also in the area of digestive motility, and therefore so far the works from our group and the works from other groups are focused on deep learning, which is a different modality, which is a subset of machine learning that is organized in convolutional neural networks. And these convolutional neural networks have a multi-layer architecture that is able to mimic the neurobiological processes that ultimately lead to clinical decisions. This exponential characterization of the convolutional neural networks that not only grew with the quality and amount of data, but with the alterations on the architecture, is what is able for us to exponentiate its learning, and therefore have this evolutionary character, which is the quintessential nature of intelligence, which is the capability of adapt to different contexts. And therefore, we currently are in the big data era, where we have all these multiple data sources that can from different. Sorry, I'm hearing some noise. Do you hear me? So basically, we have these multiple data sources that have images from radiology, from pathology, even from electronic health records. However, we'll find lots of exciting publications on gastroenterology. However, the truth is that right now we only have basic tools available for clinical practice, and basically we have here an example from Medtronics, an iterative scope, which is only able at the moment to detect polyps, and in the United States they are only able to say that there is a polyp, because FDA has not agreed so far to even characterize a polyp as an adenoma or non-hyperplastic. So there is a clear asynchrony between what is research and what is already approved, because there is a lagging time. And so right now, if you're talking about artificial intelligence in gastroenterology, this is what you have. It's polyp detection. And you can see here in the ACG AI Summit, where we gather specialists from throughout the world, and now currently also on the WGO guidelines, where we are working with some of our Spanish friends. We can see here, and that's why I went with this contextualization, we can see here that digestive motility is pretty much not unveiled. So we have colonoscopy and gastroscopy and small bowel capsule endoscopy that are on the where AI is already being used, not extensively, but on the clinical practice. And then you have the part of the iceberg that you cannot see that will unveil. And as you can see, digestive motility is not right on top. There are things that will come first, because digestive motility is not an easy area of AI to develop. And so this came to the technology readiness level scale, where we can see that, okay, we can do a paper which can be a proof of concept, and that would be a TRL 3 or 4, but then actually going to deployment, which is first implementation and then leading to extensive implementation, requires not only a lot of tech development, but also lots of clinical evidence in terms of getting into a regulatory approval and having this widespread in the world. So AI is meant to see more, see beyond, and ultimately decide better. So about seeing more is about picking up features that we weren't able to see, but we are able to see because of we are tired or it's time consuming. So it's like this example, where is Wally? So we know how Wally looks like, but we don't know where Wally is. And so this is basically what happened with, for example, GI Genius. We know what is a polyp, but we might be distracted and we don't know. The same could be applied in digestive motility, where we can know how to do the readings, but we don't have time or we miss some features. And obviously, this recent paper published by our group on clinical gastroenterology and hepatology, in, for example, exams like capsule endoscopy, where you have 12 hours of videos, it's even more useful, because colonoscopy, it's a rather a question of detecting more polyps, where in capsule is like finding the needle in the ashtray. And I think that in digestive motility, the case application of AI will be, for example, more interesting than in the case of colonoscopy, because it's rather more challenging to identify all of these features. So these are the examples. And for example, this is the vision for capsule endoscopy, which is already implemented. However, the vision for digestive motility is pretty much the same. So I compare capsule endoscopy to digestive motility because they are always seen retrospectively, or meaning that you do the data acquisition and afterwards, in the case of manometry, I'm not talking about endoflip, you will do retrospective reading of the findings. So for endoflip would be like what we have done in cholangioscopy, and where basically there are some patterns that we have a high inter-observer agreement. That's the case of biliary strictures. And for example, we are able to raise a diagnostic yield from 56% to more than 95%, sparing thousands of unnecessary surgeries. So this leads to ultimately deciding better, and that's where we came with the first interoperable model in the world, in a collaborative work between Spain and Portugal and the United States, with Professor Cecilio as our main senior author and myself as the first author. And also we published on Nature Scientific Reports, where we were able to also prove that we are not able to do this in nasophageal manometry, but also in anorectal manometry in different countries, in different devices, and therefore creating an AI that could work. So we came up from the first publication in 21 that I did not put here, which was a model that only worked on one kind of devices in the Brazilian population, to a model that works in all the devices, Medtronic, Labori, whatever. And this, therefore, you create a generalizable AI. You have to put in mind that only 0.3% of the models could be applied into clinical practice because they would not work on a different population on a different stage. So we are able to achieve that, and this is the way you can come into clinical practice. So I will dive deep on the question of anorectal manometry, because for the question of time would be impossible to talk about esophageal and flip manometry. So we choose to talk about anorectal manometry. We all know why anorectal manometry is important. We are in an expert congress, and we know that very well the classification of London and the London Protocol, and which is divided in 4 parts. And the goal was to create a model that was able to do the 4 parts of this protocol. However, the development of AI in digestive motility is rather complex because we have to face many challenges. So there is the question of the low accessibility of data, because the data is pretty much scattered between centers. So it's difficult to have exams that are clean for model training. It's a very complex data analysis. It's not easy to do that because you have models that are well trained for image analysis, but in the case of manometry, you are combining raw data, which is like the pressure points, with the images that you get from esophageal. So you have to do a multimodal model, which is quite more complex. And then you also have to integrate the clinical data and how the data acquisition was done. And then fourth and more important, for example, having an exam from Medtronic's platform is completely different from Labori or other platform. So to have a model that works in all hospitals, in all devices, which is required to have artificial intelligence, to have a software as a medical device, because AI cannot only work in one device, otherwise it's not AI. It is a computer-aided diagnostic, because AI must be interoperable. That's why ChatGPT is called OpenAI. It's like internet versus intranet, and these challenges are really important. So we put this into consideration when we started thinking about this in 2017. So it's a long time work, and we started with Sinus, basically creating models similar to electrocardiograms or electromyographies. But then we uh, uh, quickly realized that we had to take some of our expertise that we gained from capsoendoscopy, high resolution endoscopy, cholangioscopy, as you can see in the images, and then combine the both readings. So we don't only use image data, we use pressure points, we use clinical data, which makes for a much more comprehensive analysis. However, on the data science part is trickier, but it opens more doors and room to grow the model. So the aim was to develop the first model in the world that was able to identify and differentiate patterns, or not only saying here's the pattern, but saying what the pattern is, and then do a model based on the London Protocol and classification, and therefore do an assessment like an expert would do in less than 1 minute. So we picked up 906 high-resolution anorectal manometry exams. All exams were cleaned, so we have a grand pool of more than 20,000 exams, and we just had 1,000 exams that comply with all the criteria. And then we do 3 expert classification disorders of Hamilton. So the ground truth was the expert validation of the exams that we included. And we can see here that we have controls, which is quite important, with patients with these motility patterns. And then we divided 80% of the patients on the data set for training and 20% of the patients on the data set. So we did it completely on patient split, which is the most important metric, because You will see in AI papers, most of the papers, they don't have patient split. Some of our papers in the past didn't have patient split because we were not at that level. And this is the only way you can ensure that the model will work, because it guarantees that the model doesn't know the image or the patient first, and it's agnostic to the patient, and therefore guarantees us that we'll perform well in real life clinical practice. And therefore, we evaluated multiple machine learning platforms, and then we fine-tune the models with hyperparameter tuning to ensure the correct performance. So basically, the model is able to pick up the results and tell where the pattern is. And we can see here the accuracy levels that we have for different conditions, for disorder of anal tone and contractility, anal hypotension, combined anal hypotension and hypocontractility, most of them with more than 90% accuracy. And this were results from last year. Right now we are on all the parameters over 97%. So in a question of 8 months, we are able to triple the data set, and also with other countries and other centers on board. So the strength of the current state of the art and of this study was to accurately identify and differentiate the disorders of anal tone and contractility. So the current state of the art of AI in digestive motility is, yes, it is possible to do motility analysis like an expert, and we are able to do it following the London Protocol. And we are not creating a low TRL, low technology readiness level model. We are creating a technology that actually works, because we validated this in exams that the neural network didn't know nothing about. So we proved that AI did work. Also, it was important because we work with in this particular study with 3 reference centers, and therefore we know that the model works well in proper conditions, and that the model was trained from the correct data. And also interoperability. Right now it's from 2 device manufacturers. In our future submission will be from 4, so we keep growing in terms of interoperability. However, it is a retrospective study, even though we know that we all see motility afterwards. So it's quite different to validate, for example, a model in colonoscopy. However, we need to do future studies with larger data set and evaluate all parts of the classification. And this will be the scope for DDW26, where we already finished the London Protocol, and we are starting to go on human versus AI analysis. Like, for example, we have done in capsule endoscopy, where we are not just proving, for example, okay, if the model works, but for example, how much was the time with AI reading versus the time without AI reading? What was the accuracy without AI? What is the accuracy with AI? So we are now in the phase that we need to prove the cost effectiveness of AI. So this will be the next steps. So basically is this. We need to prove that AI may turn high resolution anorectal manometry into a more cost efficient exam, and enables the widespread of this exam, because in many countries the accessibility of this exam is hindered by the scarce number of specialists and the time consuming aspect of this exam. So, well, obviously there are also ethical challenges, and we are keen on that subject, and we are always focused on privacy and data protection. This is crucial. You have different laws in Portugal, different laws in Spain, different laws in the United States, different laws in Australia, different laws in Brazil. So basically, if you want to do investigation in AI, you have to do a little bit of a mini degree in law in terms of data protection, because it could be quite troublesome. Also, the biases, meaning that here it's very challenging. For example, if you have a, let's say, cholangioscopy, you know the ground truth, which is pathology. If you're talking a colonoscopy, you know the ground truth, which is pathology. What is the ground truth in in motility. How can I correctly put on a data set an exam as a motility? So you have to have a constant expert classification of experts, and therefore it's very important not to introduce biases. And then we have to create an AI model that is explainable, meaning why this model is saying this conclusion. We need to know why. So therefore, we need to create a visual tool that says, here is the hypertension, here is the hypotension, here is the the achalasia, for example, in esophageal, and that's what we were able to do. Because at the end of the day, we need to be responsible and have trust so that we are able to transfer the model. And that's why we first are develop this as a team and only transfer to other hospitals and other centers when we believe enough on the technology. The concept of trustworthy AI is really important. We are aiming to always have the privacy and data the protection of our patients in our mind, but also be transparent to understand why the model did an assessment, because we need to always know why the model did such decision. And we are aiming to create models that are robust, fair, and that's why we are not focusing, for example, on Portuguese and only Spanish exams, because we would have mainly a Mediterranean and Atlantic population. We need to have data sets from throughout the world, because we know that demographic bias is a huge issue in AI. We have to have an AI that is not meant to be replacing us, is meant to be at a human control, and also should be accountable, because if AI is telling us decisions, AI, and if after approval by FDA and, for example, CE mark in Europe, should also take the accountable part of the clinical decision into the final output. Also, we believe that AI could spare much of the cost, and we are doing also a current study on the ecological aspect of AI and digestive motility. And we know that after we create these models, which is, I would not say the easy part, but it's something that it's less complex than actually create a software as a medical device and a viable product that works on clinical practice. So you can see here examples of models developed in both Faculty of Medicine, Faculty of Engineering, and obviously you have capsule endoscopy, cholangioscopy, endoscopic ultrasound, and digestive motility is the same. So right now there are models, but will become a software as a medical device in February this year, and therefore you could upload the model like we do currently on our models, but create a software as a medical device that could be accessible in our research centers. So we advocate the concept of an AI gastroenterologist, a gastroenterologist that knows obviously about gastroenterology, about endoscopy or digestive motility, but also knows about other components like data science, about software, about blockchain, for example, for data privacy, and obviously about GDPR rules. We have no doubts that the age of AI has begun. So the 90s were about internet and digitalization. Now it's not uncommon for everyone passes clinical prescriptions electronically and blood tests, but in the past this was not the case, and everything changed. So AI is indeed going to change a lot our clinical practice. However, there's not enter into over enthusiasm. That's why I did the contextualization in endoscopy, that even though you'll see lots of things in research, right now, most of the things are just on research. They are not already deployed because they depend on many stakeholders. That's why, for example, Elon Musk said that in 2015 there will be self-driving cars in 2 years. And well, it's at least in Portugal that's not the reality, and also in Spain. And then Geoffrey Hinton, which I can take with less salt their words, because it is, my opinion, a little bit more credible. And is also the physics Nobel Award for deep learning for AI, precisely in last year, said that radiologists would become obsolete in 5 years. And is true from the and is correct from the technical point of view. However, we know that it takes other stakeholders like regulators and hospital administrations to change the rules. So therefore, in 25, I still see my radiologist friends going to work in regular cars. So also, let's not go into over enthusiasm and think that everything will change. However, we cannot also go into to thinking that, okay, AI is a shiny thing, it's not for me, it's not for my age, I'm not seeing in the current practice, we keep hurting, because it's going to happen. Like endoscopy changed our practice, and you have to put in mind that the dean of Harvard said that endoscopy was not for gastroenterologists, was for engineers. We had no role on that. So I have no doubts that AI will be changing completely our clinical practice. And when I mean completely, I mean completely. And right now we have to decide as doctors how we are going to surf the wave. Are we going to be in the table, or are we going to be in the menu, like Al Capone said? Well, from our group, and I'm very proud from having most of grand part of our support from Spain, namely on the digestive motility part. We are already on the table, so hopefully you can join us in the table and not in the menu. Thank you very much for your time. Muchas gracias.